Hey everybody, it's Dave Duford here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Friday afternoon. You are here on a special live stream. I am with the three stooges of the tips, the insurance panel, here with a couple of guys that are top producing final expense agents that have joined forces with me today to help you guys out with everything when it comes to objection handling in the home, selling final expense, as well as setting appointments over the phone. I think if you guys are struggling to close deals, to set appointments, or just anything really with final expense, you're going to find this broadcast to be highly informative as well as entertaining. So without further ado, why don't we start with Chris, since he was on the live stream first. Why don't you kind of introduce yourself, let everybody know a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go to Nick and then Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. You got me okay?
Yeah, you look good, man. You're on screen.
Awesome. So I've been in final expense just about 4 years. Been doing it originally all as door knocking and then gotten into appointment setting a little bit more recently. Started with an organization that I was brought on to by a family friend, and I just found that he did it well, so I was going to do exactly everything that he did. And about a year ago, we changed organizations just to, kind of rebuild and rebrand ourselves. But I think this job provides a lot of good money if you work it right. And if you don't, it'll kick you out pretty quick.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I've known Chris for quite a while, and I know his background. He's very good at what he does. Nick is a guy I've interviewed probably, about a year ago, Nick? Maybe 6 to 12 months.
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Nick Frumkin. I have been selling final expense. This is my 5th year selling final expense now. I do okay. The one of those books behind Dave has an interview with me in it.
This one right here, the blue one.
Yeah. So you can get more of my story if you buy his book. So there you go, Dave. Yeah, I don't know. I work with FEX Contracting. I've been doing this pretty well for a few years. I don't know what else you want me to say. I'm never really sure what to say when I'm doing this sort of thing. So
yeah, we'll let the audience judge for themselves based off of your highly skilled experience and ability to explain this sales process in a way that closes business. So I think they shall see. And then what about you, Mr. Matt?
Can y'all hear me okay? Am I too loud?
You're not in Starbucks anymore, it looks like.
Yeah, well, it was McDonald's, which is even worse. Okay. That's where all the clients hang out.
Right.
So I'm gonna
parties more like.
Yeah, it's true. Early morning. Yeah, Matthew Murray, National Sales Director, Market Sales Director for Security National Life. Been doing final expense right at 3 years, a little over 3 years. Worked for a certain insurance company of a dead president for a while. Went independent for about a year, and then I've been where I'm at currently for about 6 months now, and happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you too. Well, so today's topic really is, I think, we're kind of brainstorming ideas. Usually the more generic and open-ended are the best, but what I see agents really struggling with more than anything is really just with the basics, whether it's setting appointments over the phone, struggling to get objections turned around, or really just dealing with the kind of, basic frustrations that, trying to progress a deal from pre-qualifying to closing. And I thought, well, what better topic to talk about with a bunch of top producers with tons of experience than how to overcome, a lot of those, most common frustrating points of making deals convert. So I'd like to start with you, Nick, because you and I did an interview about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And guys, the rest of you guys, feel free to jump in. But Nick, this is a good point, because I think one of the biggest frustrations people talk about is how do you convert appointments over the phone? And I think you are somebody I've learned a lot from as far as your mentality and your approach. And kind of what I'd like to hear is how do you handle your appointment setting process? And what do you do when you run into resistance? And I can throw a couple of objections at you if you want to kind of handle it that way. I just kind of like to see the 30,000 foot view. And then what specifically do you do when you hear these kind of frustrating objections that a lot of agents struggle with?
Yeah, sure. So for me, the big thing when I'm setting appointments is to remember what the purpose of setting the appointment is, which is just to agree on a time to meet. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to get anybody to do anything other than agree to talk to me at a specific time. And when I talk to other agents, when I hear other agents try to set appointments, or I read other people's scripts, I find that that's kind of the area where people go wrong. You know, they try to get into a lot of pre-qualifying. They try to get into a lot of conversation, warming people up, building rapport over the phone. And I feel like that's not the time or the place to do those sorts of things. The best thing that you can do is stay as laser focused on what you're trying to accomplish as possible. That way, everything is crystal clear without getting the waters muddied. So, for example, you know, my appointment setting script can be done in less than a minute. You know, I can be on and off the phone with somebody in less than a minute, because it all boils down to, I'm going to be in your neighborhood on Monday at 10 o'clock. Will you be home? And that's everything always comes back to that is, you know, I'm going to be there. Are you going to be home? If not, then I can come by later. I can come by at 5. Will you be home at 5? And everything always comes back to that. There are common objections that get thrown out. You know, people frequently say, oh, I thought you were just going to mail it. People frequently say, you know, oh, I didn't really know what this was all about. Can you kind of tell me what we're going to be going over? And the best thing to do in those situations is to acknowledge that they've thrown up something that is designed to stop you. Acknowledge it, and then redirect everything back to going to set the appointment. So, you know, I thought you were going to mail it to me. Yeah, well, I wish we could. It would make my life a lot easier. But unfortunately, that's not how these programs work. You know, in the state of Pennsylvania, you're only entitled to receive information on the programs you're eligible for. So I'm going to be in your neighborhood at 10, or I could be by at about 5. When are you going to be home? You know, are you going to be home at 10? You know, and just kind of everything comes back to that.
So what you're basically doing, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're really selling the appointment. You're not selling the product. Was that pretty much an accurate
nothing
statement?
But selling the appointment. Like nothing but selling the appointment. And any objection, always, the response to every objection is always something that feeds back into, you know, we have to talk in person in order to make that happen. You know, I'm happy to tell you whatever you want, but I'll tell you Monday at 10 o'clock.
So what do you think, Chris? Is this kind of how you approach your appointment setting, or do you do any kind of deviation or any kind of difference? And same for you, Matt. Is this pretty much what you guys are doing as well, or do you do anything slightly different?
Well, I outsourced my appointment setting. I have an appointment setter that I trust. And one of the big boy steps in the business is when you have to learn what you can outsource and what you can do, because maybe your time's a little bit more precious in task A versus task B. And when I don't have appointments, I'm obviously door knocking. I'm not just going to sit idle waiting for the 1 o'clock if it's 12 o'clock. And when I'm at the door, if I get objections, what I like to do is either divert it, like not all objections need to be met head on. And if it starts to get a bit combative at the door, I'll just throw out a compliment. You know, if you're having trouble letting me in the house, I'll just say, man, that's a really nice blue book you have behind you right there. What's that about? And the person will smile, they'll be off topic with me, and then I'll say, oh, it really only takes a few minutes. Where's a good spot for us to sit down? And then when their guard is down and they don't think you're there to, you know, break into their house, they'll let you in and you can have a good conversation.
So it's kind of the same strategy then as far as whether you're door knocking or calling is you're really just trying to convince them that, hey, this isn't a big deal. This isn't something that you're trying to, you know, push on them. It's low pressure. Let's just talk. It's a quick type of appointment. That's, I assume your appointment setter does the same thing, right?
Yeah, and exactly. I'm just very generic at the door. I'm said, look, I'm just here to go over the programs. You did qualify. It really only takes a few minutes. And I'm there to do it or not to do it. I don't come back the next day. I don't come back the next hour. Look, I'm here today. I won't be here tomorrow. And I'm either going to get kicked off your porch or you're going to let me in the house. You know, I won't say that to them, but that's my mindset. We're doing it now because you're here, or I'll see you in 6 months when you mail the card in again.
And the same thing is true for appointment setting. You know, it's you know, I don't set appointments more than 24 hours out. with some very rare exceptions. Rules are made to be broken, right? But with very rare exceptions, I'm setting an appointment for tomorrow, and that's it. And I can't meet you tomorrow. I got a doctor's appointment. I got, my kids are coming into town. Whatever reason they can't meet me tomorrow. Well, that's too bad. I'm there tomorrow. I'm not there Tuesday. I'm not there Thursday. I'm not there 2 weeks from now. That's when I'm going to be coming by. So I can come as late as you like. I can come by at 8 o'clock at night. I don't care. But I'm there tomorrow. I'm not there the other days. And if you can't meet with me tomorrow, that's fine. But I'll catch you the next time I'm in town. I don't know when that's going to be. Or the next time you send in a card, because they always send in another card.
There'll be another card soon.
Yeah, and to relay, I spent most of my final experience career so far door knocking, because where I used to work, they were completely against the phone, right? So I'm still learning the phone, and I have a follow-up question for Nick that I'd like to get answered, and it's pretty simple. But my door script, or even if I'm on the phone, I asked a bunch of people what their scripts are, and a bunch of them seem to have this, it's about this, or they try to go around it. And I realized that the clients know that you're an insurance salesman and that you're coming to tell them insurance. So I just tell them, hey, I'm the guy, right? I'm here to talk to you about the insurance thing. I tried calling you, but if you're like most people, you don't answer numbers you don't know. And they laugh and they go, yeah, you're right. I go, well, anyways, I'm here now. It'll take me 5 or 10 minutes. Let's get it out, and then I'll get out your hair. I basically just tell it, whether I'm on the phone or in front of the person, I just go, look, you filled this out, and I'm the guy. That's my whole approach on the door or over the phone. And my question for Nick is, after that person says, yes, I'll be home at 10 o'clock, I've seen some people where they ask, hey, do you have a pen and paper? Can you write it down to kind of re-solidify that they're going to be there? Do you do that?
No, I confirm their address, because I've found that sometimes the address that I have on the card is wrong.
Okay.
So I'll confirm their address with them. Depending on the area, I might ask them about parking. Like if I know they're in a building and I'm not sure whether there's a place for me to park in the building and I might have to park a block or two away, I'll ask them about it. But it's all stuff that is actually relevant to me. I'm not using it as a tie down. And that's pretty much it. Occasionally, sometimes if somebody sounds really sketchy, or they sound like they're not really paying attention, or they sound like I woke them up, I might say, hey, go do me a favor, write that on your calendar so you remember that I'm coming by. But that's again, it's an exception. That's not the rule. The rule is, for me, it's a volume play. Everything that I do is all about volume. So the longer I spend on the time with one person trying to solidify an appointment, the more opportunity it gives them to say, you know what, I'm thinking about this. I don't really want you coming to my house. And 2, it takes time away from me calling other people to get more appointments on. And I've said this on our channel before, and I think I said it on our interview when you and I talked, Dave. My goal for Monday is to have 10 set appointments and to see 10 people. That's the engine that makes my whole week work, is that Monday. And so I need to call people and I need to get the appointments set. So I don't have time to mess around with a whole long appointment setting script.
I got a question for you guys. This one I kind of wonder myself, and I've heard from other agents. How many objections will you rebuttal until you say, okay, this isn't going anywhere, and you go on to the next call? Is it 1, then give up if they come back? Is it 2? Is it kind of by feel? Chris, can you kind of speak to that, or Nick? What's kind of been your experience?
Well, speaking from a door approach or as a door knocking situation, I'm going to we're going to get in and we're going to talk, or you're going to slam the door on me. I'm not going to give up, because sometimes you're not quite sure how far you have to just push a little bit, and then they're going to let you in. And if you give up early, the chance of you getting back in is gone. Just throw the lead out. The be back is they know they're not going to be back the next day. So when I'm in front of the person, I'm getting in, or we're not getting anywhere. And I would divert to somebody else on a phone objection with that.
I guess for me, there's a difference for me between objections and like interruptions. Most of the things that people talk about broadly as objections are, for me, what I was taught to think of as interruptions. They're not actually saying, no, I don't want this thing, and here's why. They're just throwing you off your script. I'll take interruptions all day. If you want to interrupt me 500 times, I'm there until the cows come home. If you actually specifically say, no, please do not come to my house, I'll make you tell me 3 times. And then that's it. And the same thing goes for buying. If I'm going to close somebody and they say, no, I don't think I want to buy this, I'll come back at them twice more. And then I've got other things to do and I move on. If I can't overcome it, after 2 rebuttals, from experience, I know I've got that one's lost for me. But only certain things count as actually an objection in that case. I thought you were going to mail it to me when you're setting an appointment. That's not an objection. That's just an interruption. They're just interrupting your script. So it's not really the same thing. Like, no, I'm not going to be home on Monday at 10 o'clock. Well, that's an objection. They're not willing to set the appointment because they're not going to be there. But it's only stuff where they're saying no counts as an objection.
Matt, with your experience door knocking, can you kind of relay objection handling at the door, kind of what your experience has been and what you do?
Yeah, I'm very similar to Chris in this regard. It is I'm here now. Let's go ahead and get this done. I don't think I'd probably, the thousands of leads that I've worked for people that reset an appointment for a different day are usually never going to be back. And I've actually caught them. If someone says, I said, will you be back home around 3 o'clock today? And they think about it and you can tell that they're saying, yeah, I'll be gone. And they're trying to leave before 3 o'clock. So I'll show up at 2 and go, ha, gotcha. And they're like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything now. But the chances are, if that person is trying to reset an appointment, they're trying to make sure that they're not going to be home for when they set it. And if somebody's better at resetting the appointment when you're at the door, hats off to you. That's just not my game. It's either we're getting in now, it's just taking 5 minutes. I think I've learned how to break down that wall, which is basically getting somebody to laugh in the first 15 seconds. If I can get them to smile or laugh, I'm a pretty charming guy. After that, it's all over. I just kind of looked, and I think I learned this from Nick, or the idea. I think I did it, but you kind of look past their feet, kind of through the door hole, and I take my briefcase, my suitcase, and I kind of push it into the door, kind of getting myself past that 6-inch gap, which is the door frame, which is the hardest part to get through in the whole thing. After you get past that, they could be the meanest person in the world and then the nicest person in the world 6 inches later.
I've learned one thing in having children, that a lot of the times my initial reaction to their demand is an emphatic no. And it sounds like something I would actually believe if it was said to me. But then they ask me again. And then for some reason, I concede. And I think that kind of mentality in my mind is what I think about objections is that it's a lot of times it's just knee jerk. I like to describe it as kind of like a survival technique or mechanism, to just reduce risk, but it's not something that's well thought out. It's not something that is real, and if you're insistent, then you can get past a lot of the stuff that at first you think may sound, if you're inexperienced, legitimate. It's not really, You guys see? Do you guys have kids? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Not at all. No, I don't have kids, so it's different for me. But I think I learned this from somebody. There's only about 7 objections that you can get at the door, and once you've been through those 7 main objections, everything else is just kind of a reroute from those 7 objections. So once you've handled those 7 and you've overcome those, you're a master at door knocking. Some people take door knocking as the toughest thing in the world, and when they think door knocking, they think door-to-door salesmen. They're straight knocking on doors. No, you got to lead. You're going to see the person that has inquired. You just got to get that person, again, through that 6 inches of door frame to be the nicest person in the world. So once you learn those 7 objections, which is, I thought you were going to mail it in. You're supposed to call me. I thought it was going to be free, on and on. Once you get past those 7, you're a master at door knocking. So just get through those 7 in your first week, and then you're good.
Well, the hardest part about door knocking for me is just people not being home. You know, like you knock on a door, nobody's there. You go to the next one, nobody's there. You might go to the next one, nobody's there.
Yeah, and I used to,
somebody's there, but it's like, I mean, that's it. You know, it's all the same. You know, if you get it, if you can get the skill set from one of these, it's the same basic set of skills. You know, it's just different spin. It's just a different spin on the same set of skills. You can close somebody to buy a policy from you. You can close somebody to set an appointment or to let you in their house to present to them. It's all the same thing.
Well, same thing with objections. And speaking about kids, sometimes when your kids say something absolutely ridiculous, you don't have to answer it head on. They're like, the sky's purple and there's elephants floating by. I know that's not actually happening, so why do I have to address that? If they say, I want to talk to my kid about it, and you already realize their kid lives in Utah and they haven't talked to you for 5 years, that's not a real objection. So you don't have to address it like, all right, well, let's talk to your kid about it. No, it's a question. You have to work through the question and not really face it head on.
Yeah. I have to go back to I'll tell you my experience. I was talking to my wife about this morning. I don't mean to turn this into parental advice hour here, but I think it's funny. It's all relevant because it's just human dynamics and behavior. It's like I got a 9-year-old that likes to argue with my wife more than I do about stuff. And they were going back and forth, and my wife was defending herself, and she was losing by defending. Whereas if he were arguing with me, I would just say no, or I'd ignore him and I'd continue on. I wouldn't allow for any ground. And I almost think like if you start believing what some of these people say, like the parents, let me call my kids thing. Like if you validate that, right? Oh, you have to. Okay, well, let's do this and that. Then you're giving them strength. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, you're kind of turning the tables against yourself. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. You don't just because somebody says something doesn't mean you have to deal with what they're saying. I found the most valuable piece of advice that I was given, and I've been given this by several different managers over the years. Is acknowledge what they have to say, make sure that they don't feel like you're ignoring them, but then get them back onto your thing. Don't let them get wrapped up into their thing. It's about they're there to do your thing and just bring it back to you.
Right.
It works with kids as well as it does with prospects, and everything is selling. The entire world, everything in the world is selling. It's all sales.
Remember, adults are just big kids.
That's right.
Okay, well, let's transition to talking about objections in the actual sales presentation. So we've talked a lot now about what do you do at the door, how do you handle objections, and I think most importantly, the mindset to have, and really how to think about it from a psychological perspective. But how does this differ when you're actually sitting down and dealing with the most common objections? You've gone through a presentation, you've built value, you've established trust and rapport, but now you're to the close and they say your typical objections. I need to think about it. Matthew, why don't we start with you? How do you deal with objections when you hear after you make the offer for the close?
I think a lot of people screw up on their objections, again, because they give the power back to the client. When they say something like that, they're trying to take control of that situation. You have to, again, just listen to what they said. And especially you got to listen the entire presentation, because I'm sure that they said something once, twice, or 3 times during that presentation for you to combat that or deflect that objection that came up, which is, I need to think about it. And I've told everybody this is my favorite objection to handle, because I put it back on them. I say, Miss Jones, here's 3 things I want you to think about before you buy this life insurance. Okay. Number 1, do you like the company? Do you like how long they've been in business? Do you like their financials? Do you like their name? And they'll say yes. Okay. Number 2, Miss Jones, is do you like the price? Is the price affordable for you? Okay. That's the second thing I want you to think about. And they'll say yes or no. And if it's no, you handle it. Okay. And then third and most important, Miss Jones, is do you like the person that's giving it to you? Do you like me? And they're gonna laugh and go, of course I love you. And I say, well, then what else is there to think about? You like the company, you like the price, and you like me. You've already thought about everything you need to think about. You gave them what to think about, made them think about it right there. So now there's nothing else for them to do but react.
What about you, Chris? How do you handle objections?
I think it's important, first off, to take away objections before they get the chance to have them. If you ended up in an objection battle at the end of your presentation, it's because you left a bunch of landmines out there that you're now stepping on. So the best way that I like to deal with objections is just address them beforehand. Tell a story. Would you believe this one time someone told me they needed to think about it? And I think that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Oh yeah, that's crazy. So now they don't get to say that. Would you believe this one time someone told me they actually wanted to wait until their term policy expired? That's crazy, right? Nah, I would never let that happen to me. How about the other time when someone said, just throw me out in the trash? Miss Johnson, there's no one in the trash today, right? You can't do that. So not only are they laughing, but I'm also dealing with the objection. So then they don't get to have it later on. And if it's actually a valid concern, when I tell that story, then they're going to say, yeah, I would make sense about thinking about it. Or maybe if you actually made the mistake and you never dealt with the objection and they say something to you, the best way I found to deal with it is I'll say, well, can you tell me a little bit about what that means to you? And maybe I stole that one from you, but it's all stealing is what this business is anyway. So when they say, oh, I need to think about thinking about it. Okay, tell me a little bit more about what that means. Well, I'm not sure if I can afford it. See? It wasn't they needed to think about buying insurance. They weren't sure if they could afford what you showed them. Or, well, I need to talk to my kids about it. Oh, okay. Well, can you tell me a little bit about what that means to you? Well, I'm not sure if I make a lot of bad decisions and I want to talk to them about it. Oh, okay. Do you feel like covering your children with insurance is a bad decision? No. All right. Awesome. What was your middle initial again? And just proceeding forward. So not dealing with it head on, but taking them away early. And if they do happen, asking them, tell me a little bit more about what that means, because the first thing they say is never really the real objection.
I have to add in here, I think it's genius what you said. I guess you could call it like planting a seed, right? You take those objections and tell a story about why it's so ridiculous, right? I obviously can't be too obtuse about it, but I think one of the great things you could do, what if a guy's experience, this is what I would think. If you experience a certain objection a lot, plant a seed, early on in your sales presentation, like what Chris said is again, it's genius. Can you, man, I heard this one person say they wanted to talk to their kids. I mean, they're a grown adult. Like you wouldn't do anything like that. Maybe, maybe refine it better, but just get them agreeing with you. Yeah, that's silly. You're a grown person. Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you do that? I think that's like pretty powerful stuff there. What about you, Nick? What do you do when it comes down to objection handling time? How do you handle them?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not, I mean, I say different words, but it's all the same idea, right? And it's like the old cliche. I like insurance industry and sales cliches. The old cliche, it's closing problems or opening problems. If you're having problems when you get to the close, you messed up earlier. It's rarely something that's actually happening right there. So the key is making sure that your presentation is built towards dealing with those issues. And whether it's telling stories like Chris does, or my friend John Duggar has a presentation that he uses that is like his entire presentation is just blasting out different objections that he gets over the course of his presentation, or any number of different things that you do. You set up what the expectations are, and at the end of the day, the only objection that I really deal with regularly anymore is I deal with people who don't trust me because I've messed something up, or people who don't have money and legitimately don't have money. And that's it. I haven't found a good way to overcome the no money objection and the no trust objection. If I don't uncover it before I get to the close, I'm usually screwed anyway. What
do you think the no trust objection looks like? They're obviously not saying, I don't trust you, Nick.
No, the no trust objection is I need to think about it. I need to think about it is a sign that either they don't trust you, or that it's too much money, or it's not fitting into their to their worldview. And like all objections come in the disguise of I need to think about it. But Like lack of trust would be something like you're going in to replace a policy and they've got a Lincoln Heritage policy, or they've got an AARP term policy that's about to expire. And you come in and you show them, you've got a company that can give them $5,000 more coverage, immediate benefits when they've got a graded benefit currently. And their situation is just so much better. And they go, yeah, but I really need to think about that for a little bit. Right. Yeah, you screwed up. That should never happen. But I guarantee that that's a scenario that's happened to everybody that's watching this video right now.
Yeah, where it just makes perfect sense and they don't do it.
And it's because you messed up the building of trust.
Can you recover from that, or is it too late?
I think it is recoverable, but you need to recognize that that's what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
If you recognize that that's what's happened, you can put the brakes on everything and kind of take it a couple of steps back, and you can save those. Those are not impossible. But if you don't recognize where the truth of the objection is coming from, if you're just seeing, they just said they wanted to talk to their kids. I mean, it's a no-brainer, but they want to talk to their kids. What am I going to do? And you don't realize that there's a lack of trust that's been built there. You're not going to approach it the right way.
What's the culprit for that? I mean, this is an interesting topic. Is it is it something that we didn't do? And that just would be generalities. Is it something we didn't do in the beginning, like take enough time to build rapport? Is it because we skipped a step? I mean, like what do you think, or is it different for every prospect? Why is it that sometimes you just don't make that connection as far as trust goes?
Well, sometimes you just won't, right? Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to jump on you.
I think trust can be established early in the presentation if you do it properly. You build a little bit of rapport, you get them to laugh, you see that there's a relaxation in their body language, and part of your presentation needs to be showing them something that establishes trust. This is my license here from the state of Pennsylvania. The state of Pennsylvania entrusts me with the care of folks just like yourself, and showing them that you are a real valid person some way or another. This is my organization, something to show you that you are not just some dude that showed up with a random, piece of junk mail. And when you establish some trust, when you say things like, yeah, I've been in the business for, X amount of time, I've helped several folks in your area out, taking the time to build trust early in the presentation. If they give you a trust objection later on, typically maybe it's a banking objection. I'm going to send it in. I'm going to mail a money order in. Well, typically, Ms. Johnson, people say that because they're concerned about the way this works. But remember, I'm licensed by the state of Pennsylvania, as well as X, Y, and Z states. And why it works this way is, and you root back to the trust that you established earlier to deal with this trust objection. So again, just like any objection, if they're not trusting you, you left the landmine early on that you didn't establish any trust early on. People buy from people they like and they trust. And if they don't like you, then you got to have a lot of trust or a little bit of both. Yeah. And the other thing that is super important in closing the sale is having confidence that what we're doing today is either putting you in a better insurance than what you had, or you're getting insurance from me.
And an upgrade.
I'm an upgrade. I'm not saying that to them, but that's my thought process. They're buying from me, or they're getting better insurance from me. And that's why I'm here. I'm not here to make a friend. I'm not here to just, throw out the card at the end. I'm doing something.
Well, and that's so important. Like, you're there for a purpose, right? And I think there's actually a lot of trust building that goes into just that mental attitude of, I am here to do a job. I do think that a lot of agents, because we talk about things like building rapport, right? And that's important. You want to build rapport, but I don't think you want to build rapport by spending 15 or 20 minutes talking about their grandkids before you get down to business. I actually think that breaks trust. I think that makes you look sketchy. Because why are you there? What are you doing? Why did you come into their house just to talk to them about their grandkids? Are you there to just spend time with them? What's going on? You want to go in with a purpose, with direction, and you will build trust without even needing to say very much about why they should trust you, because of how you carry yourself, and all the little intangible things that you do, the confidence that you have in knowing what you're talking about. These people that we deal with they're not dumb. You know, they are sometimes some of the most street smart people that you will ever meet. They know, they can read a person when they walk in the room. They're going to decide before you even pull out a presentation book whether or not they trust you enough to give you a sale. I mean, you can win it back. You can build that trust later, but they're going to make that decision quickly. They're going to read you. And so you have to go in there with the confidence that you know what you're doing and that you are licensed and that you're in a position to make them better. Matt?
Yeah, I appreciate it. And you said the objection usually comes with you have a much better deal for them. They've been paying on their insurance for 11 years. I just got out of a presentation where I wrote an app for $960 or something like that, $80 a month. And the guy about 11 minutes in goes, "So what do you get out of this?" And I said, "Well, I get commission, man." Right. And I said, "Look, man, I said, you don't know me for anybody. I've only known you for 11 minutes. You've been paying your insurance company for 11 years. Right. You've nearly had over 100 payments to this one insurance company. Why would you be trusting me than the company that you've been paying for 11 years? So what my job is to do is to show you, okay, what they don't want to tell you. We're going to get on the phone with them, and you're going to ask them some questions, and then I'm going to ask them another set of questions that are going to be almost the same, but you're going to find that they're going to tell you something that they don't want you to hear, and I'm going to make them say something that they do not want you to hear, right? And they'll go, "Okay, that sounds good to me." And so, and I always make sure they say, "Look, you don't know me from anybody, right? You don't know me from anybody. You shouldn't trust me, but here's why you're going to trust me, because I'm going to do this for you so you can understand how this really works." So I let them know that there's a trust issue, that they shouldn't trust everybody that walks in their house, that you should be wary of the 6 foot tall guy that just walked in your house that you've known for less than 15 minutes, right? But you've got to build trust somehow. And most of the time it's getting on the phone and helping with something that they did not understand. And when you can show the value in that, they'll buy from you every time.
So, a couple of things here. I posted a note in the chat for some questions. So I'm going to go through a couple of questions here. And I'd like you guys, as all three of you, respond to this. Okay, so this one's from Ryan Young. He asks, "What is the strangest objections you've ran into?" Matthew, why don't you jump in and tell us what your strangest objection has ever been?
I need a second, because there's been some strange ones in the...
Chris, Nick, you want to jump in?
Yeah, if y'all have something up front. I mean, there's some strange stuff.
I mean, I've been in some strange situations before. You know, sold policies at McDonald's, sold policies in a house where it was colder inside than outside. But if people say something strange,
haunted.
I don't know. I mean, are you presenting to a competent prospect at that point? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get a lot of strange objections, and maybe it is because I do always kind of categorize them mentally into these little buckets of this is what the real objection is. You know, I've had strange stories. I've had weird things happen to me, both from people who I've sold and people who I've not even gotten to present to. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a particularly strange objection.
Maybe
I was in the middle of Georgia one day, and it was like Tuesday at 10 in the morning, and this woman was drunk. She was gone, and first of all, she was mad about. She really wanted life insurance on her dog. But at that time, there was no pet insurance, and she was really upset. She was very sad. And I offered her the policy, and her objection was, "Well, I can't spend the money because I got to pay bail to get my husband out of jail." And I was like, that was one of the few times I've ever walked out without trying.
Yeah.
I had a lady cancel because she wanted to pay her Finger Hut bill more than her insurance. So I asked her if Finger Hut was going to bury her, and she didn't really respond well to that one. But that was the end of it anyway.
I had a situation not too long ago where it's not really an objection, but like I was presenting to a woman and I was doing a replacement, and it was actually one of the situations where I was actually lowering her payments while giving her more coverage at the same time. And her son walks into the room. He's the beneficiary. He's going to be getting like $25,000 out of this. And he walks into the room and just starts laying into his mom about changing her insurance policy, screaming about how we can't afford more insurance. You can't get more insurance. You don't qualify for more insurance. I don't know what this guy's doing here. Screaming. And then he kind of stops and she says, "Okay, now are you done?" And he says, "Yeah." And she says, "Okay, so I'm going to sign up for this insurance now," and signed the paperwork. And she's like, "Don't worry about him. He's mad all the time." And
there's a lesson to be learned there. That's how we should treat our prospects. You know, let them rant and say, "Great, sign here."
Yeah. All right. I had time to think about it. I had a lady that told me at the time of signing, she says, "If you can't make sure that my cats get this money when I die and not my kids, I don't want anything to do with it." Lady lived an hour away from me. I talked to her multiple times on the phone. I realized she was a crazy cat lady before I rolled up. But she legit wanted to say, how can I make sure whenever I die that, one, I get cremated, right? I don't want anything. I just want to be burned, boxed, and I want the rest of my money to go to take care of my cats. And I'm like, okay, but you got to leave it to somebody to take care of your cats. Who's that person that's going to take care of your cats? And she was like, all right, but are my cats going to get it? And I'm like, that's up to the person that's going to be receiving this money. You got to handle that with them. But she bought it, and she's still on the books. So, but that was the weirdest one that ever.
She loves those cats.
She loved the cats, man.
All right, another question from the audience. Brett says, "I'm feeling like the late lack of trust objection is at the point where you have nothing to lose." Any comment on that from anybody?
The late lack of trust. Well, again, all trust comes from taking the time to build it early on. If you're having trust objections, literally print out your freaking state license, put it in a laminated piece of paper, and show it to them. You know, the state of Georgia entrusts me with the care of folk 50 and older on Social Security. See, this is their emblem. This is my name. Here, this is even my state license. Look, this is my license, my regular ID. And here's an example of folks that, you know, have them read a review and print it out for your binder. If you know you're getting it over and over again, either address it or stay in the path of insanity.
Yeah, and maybe figure out what you're doing, that you're giving off a vibe that's causing people to need that from you so often. Like if that's something you're getting a lot, you're probably doing something. If you're not recording your presentations in the home, I would recommend that you do. Was it Zig Ziglar said, you know, if you don't own a recorder, you're not a professional you're not a professional salesman. You know, you've got to record your presentations, know what you're doing, figure out why people aren't trusting you. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll get into those situations where you're in a Hail Mary situation. You just want to throw everything at the kitchen sink. I've been taught some objection rebuttals that are very much like, use only in case of, you know, right before you're thrown out of the house. Like when I was at the captive agency that I was with before, and we weren't selling life insurance, but it works the same way. It's something like, I understand that this is a really big decision for you, but have you ever regretted doing the right thing for your family? Whatever. I don't know. You can have those kind of rebuttals. I don't like canned rebuttals like that. You know, but I mean, they exist. You can find them. They're all over the place. Buy a couple of sales books. You'll have a dozen of them. And yeah, use them, throw them out there. What the heck? If you're getting thrown out of the house anyway, why not?
All right, got another question here from Matt. Why don't you take care of this for us and give us your answer? From Ray Cordova, he asks, "Do you believe in the saying that buyers are liars?"
Do I believe in the saying that buyers are liars?
Mm-hmm.
Give me more context on that. The people that are buying life insurance are liars? Is that what he's asking?
Yeah, I think that's kind of a, you know, I've heard this for years. It's the context of, you know, how much do you actually believe what people are saying? I would extend that would be beyond just buyers, but just the sales process is maybe like what we've been talking about. How much do you actually believe what people are actually saying?
Oh, yeah, 85%. The one I just wrote up, he had somebody that called on his sister that was in the house, and they said, "Hey, your sister, we just got our blood work back, and she needs to be rushed to the emergency room now." Right? What am I going to do to combat that? It was over the phone. Someone called him, and they were like, "You got to get to the emergency room for your sister." And he goes, "Hey, man, can we wrap this up?" And I go, "Yeah. Grab your medicine bag. I'll handle this very quickly. Let's get it done." But other than that, if something's, unless I can hear it and see it, anything someone's telling me, I just take it in and go, "All right, cool," and I move on to the next thing. Kind of that, I think it's Jordan Belfort, the straight line approach, which is, hey, and Nick talks about this, just stop letting people get off path and put them back to what we're here about. This is what I'm about. I used to do a whole lot of rapport building where I'd spend 30 or 40 minutes in a house building rapport with somebody, and they would give me every objection. I go, "Man, can these people even buy?" And then by the time it goes by, they go, "Man, you've been here for a while. Don't you have somewhere to be?" And I would waste my time. So now I've gotten into the houses and I go, "Here's what I'm here about. Let's get this over with." So yeah, I think buyers are liars. 95% of the time. There's about 5% where someone actually has a good excuse, like the hospital called and said, "You need to get your sister to the emergency room now."
Chris, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that you need to be very skeptical about what people say, and you need to continue with your presentation until proven otherwise. I had my very last application of the week yesterday. A lady said, "Can you come back in an hour?" And she's legitimately in her bathrobe. I mean, it's a 76-year-old woman who just got out of the shower. And I'm like, all right, I might not make it back, but if I do come back, you will be here. She's like, "Yeah, okay." So I made the point of coming back in about an hour and a half. I sat down and she says, "My daughter's picking me up in 5 minutes to go to dinner, so I only have 5 minutes." And I was there 45 minutes. And every 5 minutes she would say, "My daughter's coming to pick me up to take me to Cracker Barrel." I said, "Okay, when she gets here, I'll put a wrap on it and we'll be finished. Is that fair?" She said, "Yeah." And her other daughter was there, and then her daughter finally showed up, and I explained it to all of them. And the benefit of her daughter being there is now the family's bought in and they understand why she's doing what she's doing. But what I could have done wrong is believed her and said, "We only have 5 minutes. I should reschedule for next week." Nope. We're doing this now, or you never want to see me again.
I was about to say, Chris, did your client take Aricept?
Well, I just put the trans app in now. We're about to find out.
Yeah. Hey, they take about anything. Who knows?
Oh, gosh.
Look, next question here from Julia Christie. I'll kind of summarize what she's saying here. Maybe you guys can give some perspective on this. How much do you think the actual literature from the company makes the sale for you?
Zero. Not at all.
They buy you. They don't buy the company. You know, I take a little bit of time to explain my brokerage. I take the time to explain my state license. And then at the end, I'll explain what company they bought. So the good news is the company I picked out for you today is X. Here's a little bit about them, and here's what we picked out today. But they don't know who it is until I get to the very end. And especially if I don't know what they're going to qualify for, I might even say to them, "Well, what's going to happen next is I'm going to put your information into the computer. We may then have to talk to a lady on the phone, and we might even have to send in an application for a real person to look at for about a day or two." So I've just bought the opportunity to do an e-app, a phone app, and a paper app, and they could have been declined 2 times before they even know it, because they're buying you. They're not buying a company.
Yeah, it matters. It matters not even a little bit. And that's the thing that I'm like, insurance companies don't like people saying that, right? Because they all believe that they've got the best product in the world. But nobody's out there, with apologies to Matt, nobody's out there lining up to buy Security National Life. Nobody's out there lining up to buy any Transamerica. They're not lining up to buy any particular company. They're out there because they're buying this because of us. They're buying this because we're there telling them that this is the best program for them. We are the ones that know well enough to know. So I don't know.
I think having some kind of branded material on the company, like a leave behind, is important. It's not going to help solidify the sale, but it helps that person understand that it is a real company, that sometimes they're skeptical, and it kind of goes back to that trust thing. So having something, a business card with your name on it with the company logo, a leave behind saying, here's some stuff on the company, take this, read onto it before your policy comes. Your policy coming in a few days. That, I think, a leave behind is important, but leave them going, here's 19 things that you need to know about said company, is not going to solidify the company for you.
No, and it's not going to keep them from replacing it either. You know, if somebody else comes along and offers them something else, you know, and they're not sticking with, you know, ABC company just because you told them it was the greatest company in the world.
No, wait a minute, guys. Wait a minute. Serious talk here. Kind of half serious, half not. So does a funeral consumer guardian society sizzle to the steak sell? I mean, does this keep business on the books?
I sold the devil out of it, man. I'm telling you, I sold the devil out of it. So I think it can sizzle the steak, and I'm saying this from selling it. I used to sell it. I actually remember sitting in an appointment with another insurance agent, and he was somebody that was a broker, and I outsold them, even though the lady was getting $3,000 less coverage for the same premium. And I said, well, the Funeral Consumer Guardian Society is going to save you 40 to 60% on your funeral, and you're going to save this much money at the end of the day, right? So you're actually going to be saving money over here instead of this. And I outsold that guy at that time. So I'm going to be the one that says, yes, there is, but at the end of the day, it's really not. I feel bad about it, kind of retrospect, but it can help an agent that doesn't know how to build rapport.
I don't think that if you are in the home and they've sent in a lead card and had you come and sit down with them, I don't think that the Funeral Consumer Guardian Society is an impediment to them getting a better life insurance program. I don't think it should ever prevent them from deciding to get a better life insurance program. It may prevent them from sending in another card. I don't know. I don't see those people, so I have no idea. But I don't. I said this the other day. Is in the last 2 years, I've never failed to replace a policy that I thought needed to be replaced.
What about you, Chris? What do you think?
I think this job is all in your head, and it is what you make it out to be. So if that's the product you have and that's the sizzle you have, sell the hell out of it. We get so caught up with what the lead card says, what area we're working, how much the lead card cost, what binder you carry, what marketing material you have. If you have the confidence and the work ethic, then you're going to make the money. Will it help you close the sale? It might, but people buy you, they don't buy the product in most cases in the independent setting. If the product comes with value-added benefits, I'll explain it afterwards. Like this policy comes with an accidental death benefit. It comes with an accelerated death benefit. We've built your grandchildren in, so if they die before you, they'll also be covered. So I'll explain value as part of closing, but it's an overall package. It isn't a one-trick pony. And then if somebody in the rare case says, well, I don't want you to upgrade my policy because I like this FCGS thing, what I always explain to them is, look, let me explain a little bit about how that works. Is when you die, they make a phone call to a call center in another state. That state Googles our zip code here, 19145, and looks up a bunch of funeral homes here in South Philly. And they start calling random funeral homes to debate prices. Now, that could work, and it might work. But what I can do for you is I'm here. We know this area together. If your family needs that benefit, I'll call a couple funeral homes around, and we'll come up with the best price. Because do you want a stranger doing it in another state, or do you want your agent who knew you doing that with your family? It's just like differentiating yourself from Colonial Penn and the TV versus what I do in real life. Why you want to buy from me is this versus that.
Yeah. I'll say this, it's funny. My thoughts would be sometimes we don't know if let me rephrase it. Sometimes we find kind of comfort and derive confidence out of the sizzle to kind of replace maybe some potential, I don't know, self-doubt that we have. It's like listening to Matthew. It's like, did the FCGS program sell this, or was it because Matt knows what the hell he's doing? You know, I would say it's the latter. It's that. He's a good salesperson. He doesn't need the FCGS program to make this sale. Perhaps those programs are useful as an angle, not just to justify higher price coverage, but also to help people to kind of have a spend that they can spend. But at the end of the day, yeah, you realize as you get in, especially you new guys, people don't care about companies. They care about what you can do for them. And you sell yourself above all else. I mean, how many people ever going to think of KSKJ or Trinity Life or ever heard of it before you showed up? It doesn't matter. You know, it's what you do that matters and the impact you make.
And I hear people say all the time, like, I'll pull out a company and I'll say, God, and people will say, I've never heard of that company before. And I'll say to them, well, have you ever heard of this other company that you already had before that person came in? No, I never heard of them before either. I guess it's all the same, right? You know, and I have clients call me all the time to have something done, and they won't know what policy that they have. They won't know what company that they're with. You know, I'll say, you know, okay, so we need to change your beneficiary. Refresh my memory. Which company did we sign you up for? They're like, I don't know. Can you look it up? You've got the records, right? I'm like, yeah, I got the records. So, I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter. They don't care what company they have. They just want to know that it's going to pay when they die, and it will. That's the only thing that matters to them.
So last, I guess, kind of wrapping up question, guys. This has been awesome. I hope the guys watching this, we've got right now live around 33. I think we're up to 35, 40 at one point watching this live. So thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy day to do this. Last question relating to objections. If you could tell agents struggling in the home or setting appointments with objections, what one thing would you tell them to improve their odds of success, close more business, and be successful selling final expense?
I would come back to confidence. When you leave the house that morning, hopefully you have a good system in place where you have enough leads, you have enough time scheduled, and you've got a strong presentation. But just believe you're going to go out and help 3 people that day. And that's my mission every day. I'm going to write 3 applications. I'm going to help 3 people. And then have a little bit of canned preparedness when things don't go right. Tell me a little bit more about what that means to you when they say an objection. Have the confidence at the door. I'm just here to go over what you qualify for. It really only takes a few minutes. And know when to cut bait or when to push harder, because the more people you see, the better you'll get. And like I said in the very beginning, you're either going to make a stupid amount of money at this job because you worked hard, or you'll treat it like a hobby and it'll punish you for it and you'll be out before you noticed.
Matt?
I'd say if you're dealing with fresh leads, work every lead that you have a minimum of 2 hours. So if you've got 20 leads or 25 leads, you should be working a 40 or 50-hour week and work those leads to fruition. Your whole job, Monday through Friday, right? And I know we work sometimes on Saturday, but it's typically a 9 to 6, 9 to 7 job, right? If you work those hours, there's no reason you can't get in front of 12 to 15 people a week when that's all you need. That's your whole job for the week. And if you just focus on just getting in front of people, once you get in front of somebody, if you don't know what to do, call your upline, right? Call your upline, call somebody, call me, call one of these guys. We're going to help you out, right? Just get in front of somebody and then earn while you learn, right? Because someone's going to help you get that business done. We've seen it enough. But just get in front of as many people as possible and start talking to them. Too many agents only see 3 or 4 presentations a week, and they might close 1 or 2, right? But to them, that's a good week because they're going to close out at, I don't know, $1,200 or $1,500 a week, which is more than they were making on the job before, right? And they think, well, if I do that every week, I'm golden. But they're not ready for the chargebacks. And when the chargebacks hit and they're not ready for that, they don't know how to outright that because they're not used to the consistency level of writing 6 or 10 applications a week. They're going to fail out of the business the first time they have $1,000 in chargebacks.
Great. Nick, why don't you wrap it up for us?
I agree with everything that Chris and Matt said. You want to have confidence and you need to see the people. I would say the only thing that I can add to that is try and keep it simple. It's really easy to overcomplicate this job. It's not a complicated job. Doesn't mean it's an easy job. You got to work hard at it, but it's not a complicated job. Find the simplicity in it. Get down to the core of what your presentation is about. Get down to the core of what your objection responses are about. Say less, listen more. Keep everything as simple as you can. The more you talk, the longer you talk. The longer you're in a presentation, the longer you're on the phone, the less likely it is anything good is going to come from it. Say only exactly what you need to say in order to make everything work, and get rid of the rest.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I do hope that you enjoyed today's live stream with the insurance panel. Why don't you, Nick or Matt, whomever kind of takes charge here, if you're interested in learning more about what these guys do, why don't one of you kind of tell us where they can go to find out more about you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead. No, Nick, take it away.
Go to our YouTube channel. The insurance panel. Email us, theinsurancepanel@gmail.com. Matt, you probably, I jumped in, but
no, you're fine.
You're
you and your dog are the face of the operation now. I don't know if you watched the last video, Dave, but his dog always looks like it's in trouble. But yeah, the insurance panel or TIP. So we're trying to give as many tips as possible, but the insurance panel, and Chris has a famous saying that he'll say at the end of this. But like, comment, subscribe, go watch us. We have a ton of content. We're trying to come out with new content every single day. We have a bunch of questions that came in, and we try to do a video once a week. Sometimes it's really hard to schedule. I know we've been scheduling with Dave for about a month now, trying to get it worked out. And because of work schedules, we finally decided to do it on a Friday at 12 o'clock in the middle of the workday, right? So scheduling works, but we're always bringing out new content, trying to help people out. So
you guys work on Friday?
Yeah, well, I'm working on Friday. I'm done. I'm getting one. I got 3 more appointments after this. So, yeah, absolutely check us out. And then, Chris, give them what you're known for.
Yeah, I just think it's important that folks realize the real benefit of our channel is it's 3 different guys from 3 completely separate organizations. Neither one of us make a dime on, above, or across from each other. And we're just giving you our thoughts from our real life experience in the field. You should have someone that you trust just like us that's going to guide you through the process. And if you don't, maybe that's part of the problem. We don't work for any carrier. We don't speak for any marketing organization. This is just our honest thoughts on a Friday afternoon, and hopefully it benefited you.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining. And I can definitely attest to what Chris said. All these guys have known for years, really. And they're all very good at what they do. And obviously, I don't need to tell you that if you've watched the last hour. This has been really super helpful. If you want to go subscribe to their channel, check the live chat link. You'll see, or the live chat box, you'll see a couple of times about halfway through and then near the end, I posted the direct link to their channel. And if you're watching or recording this, I'm also going to put this in the bottom in the description box. So just check it out. It'll be well worth your time. And Chris, Matt, Nick, thank you for coming on and spending the last hour with me. This has been really good.
Thank you.
Guys. Thanks, Dad.
All right, guys, y'all take care. Thanks.
Thank you.